I'm Fawn Germer, and I'm down here in Florida enjoying a nice, beautiful day because I've learned through a lot of adversity that our biggest strength is in our coping skills that we have to engage when things go wrong. I learned this years and years ago after a very perfect day with my mom. She and I had gone to the beach, and then we went and had a great lunch, and then we went to go see Sister Act at the movie theater. And then the next day, I had to fly back to Denver because I was working there as a reporter. And she had to go through some routine surgery that had been delayed. In that surgery, she had that 1 in 2,000 chance of a stroke occurring. And it happened, and it paralyzed her. And talk about your life changing from one thing to another in an instant. That's what happened. Much as what happened in the last couple of weeks when the coronavirus started to spread in this country. People started to panic. You see this craziness going on in the grocery stores, and people are acting like it's the end of days. It's not the end of days. We have some real struggles, but I want to teach you what I learned in 20 years of my mother's illness that taught me how to deal with any real difficulty by going to my core coping strategies. And it really comes down to 3 things: accept, cope, and adapt. I learned that because my mom, like I said, was paralyzed, and she had to fight her way back through that, and she still was paralyzed. And then 10 years into that, got Alzheimer's. And at some point, she started forgetting things. And I learned that the faster I could accept, cope, and adapt, the faster I could live a good life, grateful for what I had, instead of obsessing about what I had lost. So then as the Alzheimer's came in and she'd forget things, I was just grateful she remembered some things. Or when she started to repeat herself a lot, and then more and more, I was so grateful just for the sound of her voice, because I knew the day was coming when I wouldn't hear it at all. And then when that day came, I was grateful for the warmth of her skin because she was still alive. The faster we learn to accept, cope, and adapt, the greater our chances of having a happy, fulfilling life, no matter what's going on. Now, I have to say, this is unlike anything any of us ever imagined or prepared for. But that whole lesson of accept, cope, and adapt has really benefited me because I've learned I'm social distancing, so I jump in my kayak or I get on my bike because I'm not willing to waste a month, 3 months, or 6 months to worry because you don't know how it's going to work out. And all you can do is make a conscious decision to seize the best that life can hold right now. I make my living as a professional speaker. And one thing I always talk about is the power of affirmations. For me to do that, it has to get through a pretty severe BS detector. Because like I said, I used to be a journalist, so I'm kind of cynical. But the research on affirmations is so important and powerful. It shows that what we tell ourselves is what we live. And our thoughts are things. So that if we tell ourselves the sky is falling, it's the end of time, I'm going to get the virus, it's going to kill me, then you're more susceptible to bad things happening. And it's not to say that positive thinking is going to cure you of a virus. It's not going to hurt. But what it's going to do is help you so that you use your days right now for living instead of filling them with fear. And I have a bunch of these affirmations that are on my Facebook page. The number one, my mantra right now: I've made peace with uncertainty and lived my best possible life with the day that I've been given. I've made peace with uncertainty and lived the best possible life with the day that I've been given. Because if you repeat something enough, science tells us that your brain becomes open to it and then believes it. And I might say that to myself 50 times a day for several days, and then 25 times, and then 5 times, just enough so that this new positive thinking becomes a part of my reality. And I have these that I wrote just for this whole thing. I am healthy and strong. I'm safe. I find meaning and purpose in every day. I easily let go of worry over things I can't control. I know everything will work out. I'm blessed and grateful. I love my life. Because if you say these things enough times, they become your reality. You stop worrying and you start living. You stop obsessing about what's the latest thing in the news, and you start to think, what is it that I want to do with my day? How can I live a happy, fulfilling life? My mom, like I said, she was my hero, and it didn't matter what happened. She let go of what was and made peace with what is. And that is what will guide us through this time, is if we stop saying how everything has changed and how afraid we are because of that change, and instead say, with these circumstances, how do I accept, cope, and adapt so I live a fulfilling life? Even when my mom had Alzheimer's, she really found joy through love. So look around you and feel gratitude over the things that are most important to you and savor and treasure them. And then take control over your worry, because worry, as we all know, is generally a waste of time. If I asked you, what were you worried about a year ago? Most of the little things you couldn't tell me. If there was a significant crisis or illness, you could tell me that. But most of the things you fear are going to happen won't happen. And my favorite quote is one by the Dalai Lama, who says, if you're in a situation and it's fixable, why worry? And if the situation is not fixable, worry is of no use. A lot of what's going on right now that is so unsettling is difficult because it's so uncertain. And we like control. We like a certain degree of predictability. If I do this, then I can do that. And everything is a little wild right now. All bets are off. But if you remember, if you can fix it, you don't need to worry. And if you can't fix it, worry is of no use. And in my first book, I interviewed Rabbi Sally Priesand, who was the first woman ordained as a rabbi. And she taught me this coping skill that was so great. She said, I learned to schedule my worry so that instead of worrying all the time about things that didn't happen, I would say, I will worry tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And then if it rears up again at 9:35, I tell myself I have to wait until tomorrow to worry about that. Now, that can be hard sometimes, like especially something as big and uncertain as what we're going through now. How do you say, oh, I'll worry about you tomorrow and pull a good Scarlett O'Hara? How you do it is you just say, stop, stop. It's a stop code. It's much like an affirmation. Stop. Redirect your thoughts to something else. Just consciously take control over your mind so that you have a little bit of peace and calm as you deal with what's going on, because it is crazy. And then every day, think about what you did with your day that went right. There's an app that you can get called 3 Good Things. And I love this thing because every night at 8:30, it sends me a message to write down 3 good things about my day. And it forces me to look at the 3 positive things of the day. And there's this list for months of good, positive things that you don't really take the time to savor and treasure because you're so busy moving on to the next thing in your life. 3 good things every night. And then while you do that, and then start to look back, you start to see that through this crisis, you're growing. You're learning about yourself. You're hopefully becoming a better person. Because people are short-tempered right now, they're impatient, and we're having to learn to find the best in ourselves in order to make it livable, but also in order to contribute. The cable guy had to come to my house last week, and he really needed to come in. I needed a new modem and a new router because we know I don't want to go through this without any internet. But I didn't want him in my house, and he didn't want to be in my house. So he's trying to do it through the door and hand me the stuff and tell me what to do. And he only wanted to give me the router. And I said, no, I think I need the modem. The guy said I need a modem. And I saw him as he's going out to his truck grumbling about me and literally cursing me out. And he goes, "Rah, rah, rah, rah." I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but I heard it. So I opened my door and I said, "Excuse me?" And he stopped and he looked. I said, "What did you say?" And he goes, "Oh, I was just saying I was going to get you a modem." I said, "No, what did you say when I shut the door?" Because I'm just going to get you a modem. And I said, "What did you say?" And he didn't say. Well, I knew what he had said. And then I started to think about something I had seen Pam Williams, a friend, post on Facebook. And that is that in a time like this, we need to assume that people are operating out of a place of love, even if they're not, because this is difficult on everybody. And I couldn't imagine anything worse than having to go from house to house to house and potentially be infected and be a cable guy. So instead, when I got the call back to rate his performance, I gave him a perfect score, because anybody who functions during this time is perfect. So we need to be forgiving and give people a little more space and understanding than we ordinarily would. These are tough times, but we're learning who we are. And you can go through this as a victim or a warrior. You can say, I will get through this because I know how to accept, cope, and adapt. And my father, he was such a great leader for our family during the 20 years that my mom was sick, because my dad is such an optimist and just a good human being. And every time a crisis emerged, and there were many, many crises during that time, he'd always say, better days are coming. And he believed it, even when you knew really they probably weren't. He knew that if he would just write down every day what he was going to do with that day, his life had purpose and it had direction. And if a crisis came that required, for example, a significant change in care for my mother, the most important thing for him was to come up with a routine, a schedule, so he had something to do. And he'd say, better days are coming. And eventually I learned it wasn't that things were going to get better. It was that they were going to become better within. And that he would find ways to love my mother no matter what, no matter how hard it got. So you've always got that hope, that optimism. And when hope starts to diminish, go to your faith. And when you've got hope, you have everything, and both seem to bolster each other. Instead of looking at this as a frightening, scary crisis, look at this as a moment when you are getting stronger and living the best life you can with the day that you've been given. When it's over, you're going to be older. You don't get a do-over with these days. So find ways to put life and meaning in those days. I might go out and exercise. That might not be your thing. It may be gardening. It may be reading. It may be taking online courses. But do something that gives you meaning and purpose, so that when you're done with all of this, and normal may not look the way it used to look, but when you're done, you will have grown and learned, and you'll be proud of yourself because you knew you made it as a strong, happy human being. I wish you the best of luck in this. Remember, accept, cope, and adapt. Thank you.